This episode is sponsored by my friends at Bloomerang. You already know your donors care. You see it in every gift and every note that comes back with a check. What you might not know is what they're telling us right now in the data. Bloomerang's 2026 Giving Signal Report surveyed more than 1,000 active donors. 91% say people need more help than ever, and 94% give more when they know exactly where their gift goes. The generosity's there. What's changed isn't the impulse to give, it's what donors need from you to say yes. The question is whether your organization is listening. Bloomerang's giving platform is built for purpose, to help you understand your donors, to help you act on the right signals, and most importantly, to help you raise more. Download the free 2026 Giving Signal Report at bloomerang.com. That's BLOOMERANG.com. And now on to the episode. Hello, and welcome to Nonprofit Nation. I'm your host, Julia Campbell, and I'm going to sit down with nonprofit industry experts, fundraisers, marketers, and everyone in between to get real and discuss what it takes to build that movement that you've been dreaming of. I created the Nonprofit Nation podcast to share practical wisdom and strategies to help you confidently find your voice, definitively grow your audience, and effectively build your movement. If you're a nonprofit newbie or an experienced professional who's looking to get more visibility, reach more people, and create even more impact, then you're in the right place. Let's get started. Hello, this is Nonprofit Nation with your host, Julia Campbell. And today we're going to talk about the case for slow fundraising. And in a sector that constantly asks nonprofit professionals to do more with less, it's no surprise that burnout has become one of the biggest challenges facing teams today. But what if the answer isn't working harder or chasing every new fundraising trend? So this week, I'm joined by my friend, fundraising coach, speaker, and productivity expert, Chad Barger. Chad helps nonprofit professionals fundraise more efficiently and effectively, and he's the chief strategist and owner of the firm Productive Fundraising, which focuses on bringing actionable, research-based fundraising tactics to small and mid-sized nonprofits. He's also one of only 117 fundraisers in the world to achieve the Advanced Certified Fundraising Executive, ACFRE, credential. That's so exciting. And he's a very prolific speaker, traveling around the world, traveling around the country when he's not going to lacrosse tournaments with his children. Chad, thanks for being on the podcast.
Julia, always a pleasure. Great to be back. Ready to nerd out on what is working in fundraising.
Yes, I'm so excited. So a lot of you are familiar, hopefully, with Chad's website. I will give it a shout out now, Productive Fundraising. Also, I meant to check the downloads, but you are still the most downloaded guest on the podcast. I think it's up to about 1,500 downloads right now.
Well, yeah.
So I'll put the link to that episode, the older episode, in the show notes. So what inspired you to connect Cal Newport's concept of slow productivity to fundraising? Can you sort of talk about how this new keynote, this new concept came to be?
Yeah, love to. As you know, Julia, I think we share this. I'm probably a little nerdier than you on it, but I love personal productivity books.
I do too.
Like Getting Things Done, Eat That Frog, Never Check Email in the Morning, all of those. And you mentioned his name already. Cal Newport's one of my favorite authors. So last year, he came out with a new book called Slow Productivity. He's a Georgetown professor, computer science. He usually talks about the connection between technology and, workflow and that kind of stuff. This one was a little different. And the subtitle really caught my eye. The subtitle is The Lost Art of Accomplishment Without Burnout. And kind of his theory is we just have all these things now that we have to do, and they get in the way of actually producing real work. So I read this book on vacation last summer, And I've been searching for a solution for a while. A solution to this problem I have with all of my coaching clients that they're just like in nonstop mode, like just always go, go, go. Like it used to be like summer and winter, maybe we're like a little slower and we could catch our breath. And that doesn't even seem to happen anymore. That's just the nonstop. And so this theory came across and I was like, this could be the solution. And there's three core tenets that I want to walk through with your audience today and that we can get into in a little bit. But I was like, the average tenure for a nonprofit development director these days is like 15 months.
And wow, really? 15 months?
Yeah, it used to be like 18. Now it's 15. And, the average time to close a major gift, still 18 months. So that's math that doesn't math. Most people don't stick around long enough to actually close a big gift. And there's got to be a solution. And I think some of the principles of this book might make that happen.
Read a report from Candid. They do really, really great reporting around compensation and like employee retention in the sector. And I don't remember the exact statistic, but it was like something over 50% of fundraisers were even thinking of leaving their job right now. And then of that 50%, it was like 30% are thinking of leaving the sector altogether. And the reasons like you're talking about.
Exactly. I think your study might be more recent than mine, but the Chronicle of Philanthropy did a study back in 2023, and it found 85% of fundraisers expect to change jobs within the next 2 years, and 31% plan to leave the sector altogether. Just because it's too much, right?
Yeah. It's too much.
We come in and we have big hearts, we want to serve, but there's just too much.
All right, well, let's dive in. How do you define slow fundraising, and then walk us through the tenets?
Yeah, so slow fundraising, we really want to think about kind of embracing a more sustainable, slow approach, which we can use to reduce burnout, increase effectiveness. And the part I love is to create space for truly meaningful development work.
Yeah.
Not just go through the motions, actually create change. So with that, we have three core principles. First off, do fewer things. Just do fewer things. Next up, work at a natural pace. And finally, obsess over quality. Do fewer things at a natural pace while obsessing over quality. It sounds simple, but it isn't. So we can dig into each one of those and kind of go from there.
Yes. So do fewer things. Like, first of all, this is probably the most difficult tenet.
Yeah. And
why is doing fewer things so difficult for us? And, what are some activities that we should consider stopping altogether?
Yeah. So, I teach fundraising at two colleges, and there I use the textbook Nonprofit Fundraising 101 in both of them. And, it has 26 chapters.
Wow.
So 26 ways essentially to raise money. And people read the book and they think, oh, I have to do all the things.
I have to do all 26.
Yeah, all 26. Got to put them in motion today and do it. So they do that. And guess what? We have 26 things going and we're not doing any of them well. Just kind of going through the motions. That's there. So that's really the first step, is to figure out what is it that moves the needle at your nonprofit. Where do you actually raise money? When you put effort into something, what actually works? Because I find Pareto's principle, the 80-20 rule.
Yes.
20% of your effort actually produces 80% of your results. I need you to figure that out. What actually works? And then we really want to double down on that. What are you still doing because you have, a founder, a board member that says, oh, that's the way we've always done it. We have to keep doing that. We've had this golf tournament for 37 years. We can't stop now. Like, why are we doing these things that don't actually produce results and take all of our time and resources?
So what metrics should we use when we're evaluating whether an activity is worth keeping?
Yeah, for me, it boils down to return on investment. Mm-hmm. So for the time and money I put into something, what does it actually return? And I have a great tool, Julia, I'm happy to share with your audience, we'll make sure we have the link and get everybody. So it's a solicitation performance index. It's based on the way back research from the early 90s. It's a 9-point performance index. Jim Greenfield's great work way back. And so it's a simple Excel sheet. You put in the amount of money I raised, the number of people I asked, the number of people that gave, and the amount of money I spent. And it does all the math for you. And you compare every way you raise money. And it'll tell you, okay, your end of calendar year appeal had a 300% return. Your golf tournament had a 27% return. Well, guess what? Maybe, just looking at that. But yeah, really, what doing that we shouldn't be doing is key.
I think that's so great because that's data driven right there. So
Exactly.
it's not like you're going to your boss and saying, I don't want to do the golf tournament. You actually have data that shows it takes this much time and this much return.
Julia hates the golf tournament. Doesn't make sense to do the golf tournament. Here's the numbers that show it.
Exactly. Oh, I love that. I love it. Anything with data, I think is so important, especially for when you're making your case, because I can see a lot of people, I could just see them in my head saying, oh, this sounds great, but we'll talk about it at the end, how to make your case. But so that's the first tenet, doing fewer things.
Right.
The second,
let's do more of that and less of the other stuff.
Yes.
Next, work at a natural pace.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a former band nerd. So we use the word rhythm sometimes, so rhythm comes from music, but it also means just steady, sustainable, repeatable. So find
steady, sustainable, repeatable. Rhythm.
And what I find a lot of shops, many shops are just, all out year round. And they're the ones that burn through a development director every single year because it's just not sustainable. But a lot of shops too are they work in these sprints. So maybe the beginning of the year is a little slow, like January, February, and then we're all out, spring event season until we're recording in mid-June. So until about now. And then they're okay, take a little breather. And then starting back up in August, it's all out sprint to the end of the year, fall events and end of calendar year appeal. And that's just, it's not sustainable, right? You get to that break period and you're oh, right. And then, I got to do it again. Right. So I more, how do we find a natural pace throughout the year? A natural pace. And what I find is there's this connection that I have to make something and then immediately send it to my donors. It's just make it, send it, make it, send it. And that's not actually true. You can make something whenever it makes sense, whenever you have time. And you can send something to your donors whenever it makes sense for the donor experience. Okay. So classic example might be your annual report. Annual report. And I find people stress out about the annual report. So my fiscal year ends June 30. There's this stress on my mind that I got to get the annual report out to them by August 31st.
Yeah.
And then I'm yelling at finance because I don't have numbers and there's all the stress. I guarantee you that 95% of your donors have no freaking clue when your fiscal year ends.
Right.
And they are not sitting at home saying, oh, I have not gotten my annual report from ABC Nonprofit.
Exactly.
No. So do the annual report when you have time and send it when it makes sense. Maybe your June 30 fiscal year ends. You wait to put it together until September because that's a slower time for you and you'll have everything you need, but you don't want to mess up your end of calendar year cadence. So you send it to donors at the end of January. Fill in the gaps with workflow, keep that steady, and then look at the donor experience. When does it make sense for them to get this so they have that? We're doing the touch points at the right time. We're setting everything up. You can do the same thing with your event. Maybe you have a March event and you do most of the prep for it in January because March is busy with other things too. So just finding that natural pace and separating what the donor gets from when I do it.
Love that because I first of all, I'm going to order this book immediately.
It's not too thick either, Julia. Look, it's like a 3-day book.
I love Cal Newport too. I really, really like Cal Newport as well. And I love productivity books. Actually, my favorite one is Free Time by Jenny Blake. That's my absolute favorite one. I've even had her on the podcast. But to me, this is the hardest part for me Doing fewer tasks is fine because I want to do fewer things, right? So that sort of sounds good to me. But working at a natural pace, I find that, like you, there's conference season where you're on the road and you're constantly speaking. And I don't do enough planning
Yeah.
ahead for future me.
Yeah.
Future me tends to hate present me because I don't do enough planning for those sprints.
Yeah, I think that that might be key for you, Julia. I mean, we're not talking to a conference speaker audience today, but I actually put this into play for me this year because
Oh, good.
spring conference season was nuts. Like,
Yes.
it was a West Coast year. So
Yeah.
West East Coasters, tons of back and forth. I did not do much other than conference season. And I really front loaded my winter because that spread it out. That created a natural pace. So I did most of my client work, business work over the winter and didn't do much of that at all over spring. And now I'm transitioning back, kind of that ebb and flow rather than trying to do all the things all at once.
Okay. All right. The third tenet, I love this. Prioritizing quality over quantity.
Right. So now we're doing fewer things. We're doing the things that matter, the things that move the needle, the things that raise the most dollars. And we're not working in these frenetic paces, sprints, and all the stuff. So we're not exhausted. So now all of a sudden we have the time to actually think about quality. Am I doing this the best possible way? Not just taking last year's appeal letter, changing the story, and sending it. Like actually maybe doing a little more learning, trying things, testing. Can we do two versions of our appeal letter and see which one works better? Put something into play from great guests that Julia has interviewed, that we've heard, that we said, oh, that would be great if I had time to do that. All of a sudden, you have time to do those things, to obsess over quality. And my favorite question here, even if, like, let's say we do our fall event, it goes great. We raise $30,000 more than last year. We're ready to just close the books and be done with it. Take a minute and say, this year's event was great, but what could we do next year to make it 1% better? 1% better. Like what little teeny tiny thing? If every single time we did something, we made it 1% better, there we go. That feeds the flywheel, a flywheel. It goes around, but it takes the energy and reinvests it into it, makes it spin faster and faster without any more effort. That's what we want our fundraising machine to do.
Cool.
How could we make it 1% better?
Right. So why do you think nonprofits focus on quantity? And how can we stop? Because a lot of our bosses think quantity is what we need more, especially like in what I teach in marketing, more social media posts, more emails, more blog posts, more press releases, just more. How can we, if we are a person that obsesses over quality, how can we really, stay sane and convey this to our boss?
Yeah, I see it all the time.
And our boards too.
Cal calls this like pseudo productivity, like doing things for the sake of doing things, like to look busy. And it's not usually like we're trying to, fool our bosses or anything. It's just these are the things we've always done. We just keep doing them. I call them boondoggles. Like, what are these things we do that look like productivity, but really aren't? My favorite example of a fundraising boondoggle is every development job I've ever taken. I get in there, I open the database, and there's like 300 records that it's just a name, and there's no contact. There's no contact history. There's no donor history. It's just like somebody has entered a potential donor into the database.
Right.
Like, people think that's
no context.
Yeah, right. So no, that's a boondoggle. That's pseudo fundraising. Like, no, doing the things that actually matter is what's really key. Yeah, it's, as we said in the beginning, like you got to get your numbers, figure out what works, do the math, use the tools. And then I also find the calendar is a big issue. So finding time to actually focus, not multitasking, actually sitting down, having focus time. And that's, block it on your calendar. Fundraising analysis, deep work, whatever you want to call it. Maybe reserve the conference room. And if you have the flexibility, maybe like go to a coffee shop, somewhere where you're not going to be interrupted. You can actually sit down, do the deep work that's going to move the needle.
Sure. No, that's so important. Focus, like rather than adding more things, making the things that are working that 1% better. That's kind of blowing my mind because I need to be doing that too in my work. So, how can a small nonprofit, just like a department of one, sort of compete on quality and incorporate all these tenets?
It's actually, it doesn't feel like it, but it's actually easier in a small shop because you don't have all the other colleagues that are involved in things. So you can just do it. You have more freedom. And, all of a sudden, if we're doing fewer things, you're a shop of one. So that makes life a lot easier. And you probably have a smaller donor base. Like you're dealing with 500 instead of 50,000. So doing things like personalization and testing, that's all a lot easier. You can call in 3 volunteers to hand address envelopes for an afternoon and do it for your whole list or half your list and test it against the other. Is this actually worth my time? So I'm no longer a frontline development director, but all the organizations I volunteer with tend to eventually figure out what I do. And then all of a sudden I'm their fundraising chair. So currently doing that with a chapter of the Appalachian Trail Clubs. And they have their membership list is 200 people. So it's fun for me because I can test things. I send 100 people one thing and 100 people another thing, and I see which outperforms.
Oh,
so
nice.
Small shops don't say like, we're small, we can't do it. Say we're small. We have the flexibility. We can actually try things and it doesn't cost, $10,000 to do it. I can go buy 3 books of stamps and try something.
Right. And there's not really a huge committee and there's not sort of death by committee and it doesn't have to go through 90 iterations and 50 departments.
Your executive director is overwhelmed as well because they're probably doing half of the program work. So they really don't want to approve and read your letter anyway. So.
Yeah. Wow. So you've been doing this work for a long time and, you're sort of focused on helping nonprofits become more efficient and effective. What do you think has changed the most in fundraising, maybe over the last 5 years?
Yeah, last 5 years, I think I've seen the most on kind of the events and donor attention side. So, I'm going to blame it on the pandemic and go from there, but it's a different world post-pandemic with donor engagement and relations. So I started my career in higher education. And back then we all had visit goals. Like I had to have 150 donor visits per year. It was tied to everything. A lot of places don't do that anymore. They now measure meaningful engagements because there's a group of donors that just won't meet with us. Most fundraising events like the big galas are still down from their pre-pandemic numbers. I'm convinced there's 20% of the world that has still not emerged, or they just say, I didn't have to do that for a year and a half. I don't want to give up my Saturday night and put on a tuxedo and do all those things. So meeting donors where they're at. And what I've seen work really well that ties to this concept. What is the most anti-slow fundraising? It's our giant fundraising events, right? Because we put all this time, energy in. And when we do the math for most nonprofits, they are not the leading source of income, but they are the biggest suck of time. So, and when we talk to donors now and we say, how do you like to learn about new causes? They overwhelmingly say, I like to learn like maybe at a small, intimate event at the home of somebody I know and trust. So what is that? That's like a backyard barbecue, a cocktail party, a game night, history. And, it's there, 20 people, the person from the nonprofit's there as well, somewhere in the middle. The host says, folks, as you know, we're having fun tonight, but I also wanted to introduce you to this great nonprofit that I'm involved with. Julia's here. I'm going to let her just tell you a little bit about what they do. Julia talks for 3 minutes. And at the end, the host says, I'm a big supporter there. Many of you know I'm on the board. Here's why I really care. We'll follow up with you after this, see if you care too, but let's get back to having fun tonight. That's it.
Yeah. Keeping it casual.
6 of those a year instead of their giant gala, and they raise more money. Like it's so much easier. So.
I
That's the
love
fun.
that being adaptable, so much has changed. And like you just said, the donor experience has changed. Generational wealth is transferring and donors are behaving differently and, finding about causes they care about in a different way. I want to hear about your favorite productivity tools. So I want to tell the story of how you always tell the story when you speak of having a crayon, like a bath crayon in your shower, because you do the best thinking in your shower. And then you sent me some bath crayons, which I thought was really sweet. And then a notebook that said, thoughts I had when I was in the shower. So how can we, what other tools do you have that are maybe digital, maybe analog that you really like for productivity?
Well, yeah, let's didn't think we were going there, but I can always talk fundraising tools.
Okay.
So you're talking capture, and that's the key thing. So I'm not going to give you like my system because we have different fundraising styles. So let's start there. Figure out your fundraising style. And there's 4 different ones. There's a great book by Carson Tate called Work Simply.
Okay.
Simply,
I think I have
and
that.
it will help you figure out your fundraising style, and it will suggest tools that are specific to you. So that's a great starting point. But the key thing for everybody is always have a way to capture. So when you're in a meeting, it's easy. Have a notebook or whatever it is. I like to have paper in front of me in a meeting because I don't like the digital screen there. You do you, but you have a notebook, you have that. Everybody figures that out. The next one, like when you're active. So when you're driving, when you're exercising, some kind of tool there. That's gotten a lot easier with cell phones now because we can do like voice to text, but don't link it up. So when you do something, it actually goes on your to-do list. So with one button or one voice prompt, I can say something. And the next time I'm in my to-do list, it's there. It's seamless, right? And then, yeah, Julia mentioned the last one. Where's the last place that I get the best ideas? It's in the shower. So over a decade ago now, I stole one of my kids' bath crayons and it's still in there. I just write it on the shower wall. Like, what's that great idea? And then once a week, my to-do list tells me, go look at your shower wall and figure out what you're supposed to do. So capture. It's usually the missing link. Most people have gaps. They're somewhere, they get a great idea, they think of something they need to do, and then they forget it. And then it comes back and it just kind of keeps haunting them over and over. So don't let that happen. Capture it when it comes to you.
How do you manage? I'm just interested because I want to just pick your brain. And I know everyone's different. And I know everyone has different styles. How do you manage inbox overwhelm? Because I think from just listening to you talk about slow productivity and the 3 tenets, I think that's probably for most of us the number one barrier to doing deep work is we have to spend 3 hours in our inbox every day. So how do you manage that?
Yeah, it's spot on. Average executive, 116 emails per day. And they spend 28% of their day dealing with their inbox. So yeah, I mean, I'm an inbox 0 person. So I have it all processed. It's down to 0, end of the day. My biggest tip there, I use a text expansion tool. So I use Text Expander. But basically, I have pre-written templates. So you get all these emails that are basically the same. There's some version of the same thing. So when you write it, save it. So a text expansion tool, I have a keyboard shortcut. So I can do like \reply1. And it has this template. It puts it in there. It's going to prompt me, what's the person's name? What's this variable? What's that variable? Enter. And there it is. It's done. So templates, text expansion tools as well, things you frequently write, your sign off, your address. Think it as soon as you type the first couple letters, it automatically fills in the rest. So just kind of speeds things up that way. But it's taking that step back and saying, have I sent this before? If yes, then maybe create a template. And the other thing too with email, like, do I actually have to reply? Those nice little replies that just say, thank you. Got it. They tend to create another reply. Did you send one and then you get one back?
Yes, I know. Oh, it's like
email. They're like boomerangs, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So send fewer email, have templates. Think, do I truly need to do this? I actually love like the emoji replies now because now you can just do the thumbs up. Nobody ever replies to a thumbs up email. But if you send thank you or like a quick little sentence, they think they have to be nice and send something back.
Exactly.
It doesn't have to be an email. I don't know.
And I don't know if it was Cal Newport who said this. It might be, but your inbox is full of other people's priorities. And I
Yeah.
needed to hear that one time. I thought, you know what? Okay, that's very true.
Yeah. We're giving a third of our day to other people's problems. So
yeah. And the
I
other
don't
thing
think it was
that
Cal.
thing
I
that
forget who said that, but I love that quote too.
the other thing I do, and we can talk maybe a couple of minutes about AI. I feel like we can't do a productivity conversation without talking about it. But how I use it is in my Google Gmail. I actually ask ChatGPT. Now it's connected with my calendar and my Gmail and my Drive. What are my top 5 priorities this week or something on Monday? And it's been game changing. It will go through my inbox and say, oh, there's an email from like 3 days ago that you forgot about that you never answered that looks like it needs a response. So it's almost like an assistant.
Yep.
And I found that has made me much more productive than just combing through emails, combing through my calendar, especially when you are, you wake up Monday morning and you're very, I'm sure you have your week planned out, Chad. But when I get up on Monday morning, I'm usually like, oh no, what do I need to focus on for this week? So how do you use AI? I know I used to do the Sunday planning and then I just got lazy, but maybe I'll do it this summer.
Yeah. Well, no, I just do perpetual planning and a Friday check-in to make sure the next week's set up. But my biggest way I use it, so I have a custom GPT created. It's Fundraiser Chad GPT. Fundraiser Chad GPT is not allowed to access the internet. He is cut off. He can only access his own knowledge bank. What is his knowledge bank? 25 hours of Fundraiser Chad webinar transcriptions. That's the only knowledge he has. So I can literally copy and paste an email, draft a reply to this email, and it's going to pull like 5 tips out of things I've done. And I have fabulous starting point, right? Fabulous starting point. So I encourage, and it's fabulous for social media too. Draft me a 1,500 word blog post on the importance of donor retention with 8 practical tips that small nonprofits can put into action to boost their donor retention rate.
Amazing. And it's all your intellectual property.
In my voice, because it's the only thing it has access to. So I tell nonprofits, you can do the same thing. You have a blog, you have 10 years of email blasts, you have all this content.
Annual reports.
Create your nonprofit GPT and use it for these kind of things. Shout out to our good friend Josh Hirsch. He helped me do this like 5 years ago, and it's been a huge blessing.
I love that. I'm going to do that. I have a GPT, but I allow it to go on the internet, so I should do the same thing because it has my books.
You'll find random things that aren't you.
I know. Okay, that's a really good point. I put in all my blog posts and my books, and I should do the transcripts of my webinars. I think that's a great idea because then it can speak in your voice. And then when you do get those emails, it can help you craft.
Yeah, I never hit publish instantly. I read it, I edit. There's always some tweaks, but oh my gosh, it takes 10% of the time it used to.
That is a great productivity tool. Do you use anything like Monday or Notion or Asana or any of those tools?
Yeah, I'm always hesitant to recommend tools because you got to do the work. What's your style? Only 20% of you have the same style of me. But yes, my to-do list lives in Todoist. That's my task manager. And then all of my data background is in Notion. So
nice.
Todoist and Notion is my system.
Yes. Oh, I love that. And Jenny Blake actually teaches a lot of courses on Notion. So I've just been interested in what other people are using. But you're right. I find that tools are so personal, and sometimes I just use my phone and the to-do list on my phone. And I love a pen and paper. So I have notes all over my room, post-it notes. But Chad, just thank you so much for being here. I think this is such an important topic. What is your biggest piece of advice for that burned out fundraiser that's listening? What is sort of one of your biggest pieces of advice?
Yeah, let's just, start this process. It starts with evaluation. So you're burned out. You feel like you have no time. Find me a window. Find me 90 minutes to 2 hours sometime in the next month. Put it on your calendar, block it, get out of the office, go with your data and figure out what works. what works for your nonprofit. I'll send Julia a link to this solicitation performance index. Do the math, do the analysis, figure out what works, and then start making the case for operating a little slower, focusing on what works, finding that natural rhythm. And then once you do that, you can actually obsess it with quality and get back to the craft of fundraising. There's craft and science and art in all of this, but most of us don't have time to focus on that because we're too busy doing all the things. Let's stop doing all the things.
I love it. Where can people find you online and connect with you?
Productive Fundraising and Fundraiser Chad on Facebook or LinkedIn. Connect. Love to hear from you.
Yes, Fundraiser Chad. I love that. I remember when I first met you and we got connected, and I loved that you had that handle. I thought that was really cool. All right, productivefundraising.connect with Chad. I'll put all of the links in the show notes. And thank you so much for being here and just for constantly working to make the sector a better place.
I say the same to you, Julia. Thanks for doing this. Love the pod. Love hearing from great thought leaders, people that challenge us to think a little bit differently. Always a pleasure, and can't wait for the next one.
Well, hey there. I wanted to say thank you for tuning into my show and for listening all the way to the end. If you really enjoyed today's conversation, make sure to subscribe to the show in your favorite podcast app, and you'll get new episodes downloaded as soon as they come out. I would love if you left me a rating or a review, because this tells other people that my podcast is worth listening to. And then me and my guests can reach even more earbuds and create even more impact. So that's pretty much it. I'll be back soon with a brand new episode. But until then, you can find me on Instagram at JuliaCampbell77. Keep changing the world, you nonprofit unicorn.